What I also notice, Professor, very often, in fiction books and in the myths we know, is that there is always the figure of a hero. The figure of the hero's journey. When you were explaining Plato's allegory of the cave, it really seemed to me to reflect this hero's journey of the person who leaves, who is chosen for some reason. He does not accept the challenge at first. He leaves where he is. He goes on a grand mission, something much greater than himself. He faces many trials and then returns to the village or to the people he usually receives help from an elder, typically someone older, and then returns to the place where he started, bringing back this knowledge.
It's Campbell's monomyth.
Exactly.
Basically, it's Campbell's monomyth.
Why is it still so powerful today? And why do we see so many movies and books that follow this pattern?
Because, deep down, it's telling our own story. Yes, and we recognize ourselves in it. You'll notice that there are certain things that are unbelievable. Why is it done so much? Why do we still stage Greek tragedies in the theater today?
Exactly.
There is meaning. There is something deeper there. If you take, for example, in Greek mythology, Kronos devouring all his children, it's time devouring all of us. If you look, for instance, at the Arthurian myth, Guinevere betraying Arthur with Lancelot, it's our psyche betraying our essence with the fleeting things of the world, with things that are transient. So, these myths, these traditional stories, these great epics, are telling the story of humanity. Exactly.
Yes. Floods, reconstruction. After this.
Flood. Exactly, because water is a powerful symbol of the material world due to its horizontality. If you take a glass like this, no matter how you turn it, the water is always horizontal. If I took a torch, no matter how I turn it, the flame is always vertical. So, if the cross of the world represents the material world and the spiritual world, then much of this is swallowed by the waters, submerged in the waters. It is like a person who has fallen into materialism. I see, and then later they emerge victorious, coming out of there. Even Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi makes this reference.
Or Jonah, right?
Exactly, inside the whale, entering the material world and knowing how to rise above it, to be victorious, to go beyond, to return to your point of origin.
All the stories of characters, heroic or mythical, have this element of going to the deepest point, to the shadow and then re-emerging, right?
I wouldn't say all of them. I would say some classics. Classic is not synonymous with old. It can even be something new. I mentioned Pinocchio by Collodi. It can even be something new, but it follows a structure truly based on human experience. Because there are contemporary stories, our own, that make no sense at all. They have no meaning. They don't follow any sense whatsoever.
And why do we have this fixation with the figure of the hero?
The hero.
A person who sets aside, thinking only of their own good and it resembles a bit of Plato, but he was referring to politicians. But it's the idealized politician, this idea of someone who sacrifices himself for the majority, for humanity.
In fact, if you consider, for example, the structure of religions, all religions have a master who, for them, represents the highest ideal. In we will Jesus Christ, in Buddhism, it's Buddha, in Confucianism, Confucius, and so on. But if you place yourself before such a being, often they seem to be at a great distance from us.
Unreachable.
Unreachable. You don't feel capable of being like Buddha or anything of the sort. A hero, on the other hand, is someone who exists within the context of humanity as a whole.
It could be me.
It could be anyone beside you. And suddenly, through a combination of factors, in a particular circumstance in their life, they rise far above what the average human being achieves. In other words, you look and say, if that person can do it, then so can I. Therefore, the hero reminds us of how great a human being can become. They raise the ceiling of what is possible for humanity.
Understood.
So, they're someone who comes from the ordinary and, suddenly, rises to this level. That is, if they could do it, I can too. So, they restore to people the belief in themselves.
He inspires.
Exactly. He restores self-belief and shows how great we can become.
I get it.
He nurtures confidence in humanity.